wherever you are in your business, whatever painful thing you are going through, and you're probably going through some pain because even in good times in business, it's hard. And there are hard things, and you might be going through something really tough right now. That doesn't mean that you're a failure. It doesn't mean that you have to just throw everything away. You can accept that things are hard and things are not going the way that you want them to in certain arenas. Acceptance doesn't equal giving up. Acceptance is a necessary part to keep moving forward. It's a necessary step to keep moving forward. This is something I learned the hard way. You're listening to the Bold Women in Business podcast, the show for women who are building something that actually matters and who are ready to stop hiding behind the polished and perfect and start showing up as their bold, magnetic, human AF selves. I'm Rachel Honeyman, your guide to finding your true magic and putting it front and center in your brand. I'm so glad you're here. Let's dive in. Okay, so you probably know this by now because I don't shut up about it, but I am a martial artist. I've been practicing martial arts for over 10 years now, actually like 10 and a half years. It's crazy, time flies. If you're new here, you're learning something really important about me. And be warned, I really don't shut up about it. It's a super, super important part of my identity. I got started in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. That's my primary martial art. And then a few years in, I started doing Filipino martial arts and Jeet Kune Do. If you want to nerd out about martial arts at any point and hear more about these particular arts, please DM me, but do so with a word of caution that I really won't shut up once you open that can of worms. So only do that if you actually want to hear the details, all the gory details. But all of that is to say, martial arts is a super important part of my identity. And over the last couple of years almost, that has been very severely challenged. Quick pause. I want to tell you about a tool I use in my business every single day that I could not live without, NeedleCal. It's a calendar booking tool that lets anyone who wants to book a call with me, whether that's a potential client, an existing client, or anyone in between, to just click a link, pick a time, and boom, we're done. None of that back and forth email nonsense we all hate. I switched to NeedleCal from Calendly because, frankly, the pricing was getting ridiculous. And NeedleCal is not even in the same ballpark as any of their competitors. But they're not cutting corners. They offer the same features as everyone else, but they intentionally keep their prices low because they believe in making their products accessible to small business owners like you and me. And as someone who talks a lot about building a sustainable business, that mission means a lot to me. With NeedleCal, you can customize everything. You can brand your calendars, the settings are super flexible, and you can have as many calendars as you like. And I should know because I've got about 1 million of them. If you are paying through the nose for Calendly or another calendar booking tool, seriously go check out NeedleCal. The link is in the show notes and you can thank me later. Okay, let's get back to the episode. At the end of 2024, I severely injured my elbow. This was in preparation for a tournament that I did in December of 2024. And I actually had never done competitions in the whole time that I was doing martial arts until 2024, when I did 3 in the same year, and really over the course of like 6 months. So I was just in mega competition mode and I didn't win anything. Like, just to be clear, I didn't win anything, but I really loved the process of preparing for a tournament. And then the tournament itself, which was like the scariest fucking experience of my life, like no joke. But I loved it. Like I loved every second of it. It was the coolest thing. I felt so accomplished just getting out there and doing this terrifying thing, especially 8 years into my training when most people at my rank have been competing for a very long time. So I was like at a severe disadvantage and I just went for it and I was so proud of myself. And the last tournament that I did, which, side note, probably the last tournament I will ever do, but that'll come through in this conversation. The last tournament I did was December of 2024. And in preparation for the tournament, the preparation is like super, super, super intense. I was training like 10 hours a week, just really going all in. I was putting my all into preparing for this tournament because I never expected to win anything, but I wanted to feel like I had done all of the work that I could to prepare for this and that I was going into it fully prepared and not blind. So I really, really trained hard for the tournaments that I did. And 2 weeks before that last tournament, I severely injured my elbow during training. I won't get into the specifics of what happened because, again, that is going to get into like nerding out on jujitsu territory. So I will spare you. But needless to say, I was training with my partner and I hurt my elbow very badly. And then because I'm super stubborn, I competed anyway. And then I re-injured my elbow at the tournament. And then because I'm super stubborn, I kept training on it. So do you see a theme? I'm really, really stubborn. But it got to the point where unloading my groceries into my refrigerator was excruciatingly painful. So the pain was just getting worse and worse and worse. And at that point I said like, okay, I need to take a break. I'm going to stop training for a while. I'm going to go see a doctor. I'm going to get imaging done. I wound up getting a cortisone shot in my elbow, which didn't really work. It worked very, very temporarily. It doesn't even matter. I did all the things that I was supposed to do. And throughout 2025, I was basically stop and go. I was trying to get back into training. I was trying to get onto some sort of routine. And every step along the way, it just set me further back. And the other thing that was going on at the same time, and is still going on, is I have this long-standing back injury. So that is not an acute injury. It was just, I don't even know. I don't know exactly where it came from. I have some theories, but there's nothing that I can point to for sure that is, the cause of the back pain. And that's been going on for, honestly, it's like probably 5 years at this point. And I always just kind of pushed through the back pain. But when I kind of took time off of my jujitsu training and I really pulled back and I was, even though I was kind of stop and go, most of 2025, I did not train very much. And in August, I stopped training completely. I actually stopped all strength training. I stopped all jujitsu. I stopped pretty much everything except for my Filipino martial arts training, which is like weapons training. If you follow me on Instagram, you've probably seen me post silly videos of that. I love it, but it's a little weird. It's fine. But even with taking time off of training, my back was just getting worse and worse and worse and worse. And it got to the point where like it was debilitating. And so I have this acute elbow injury that is not responding to the normal treatments. And I did a lot of things, just to be clear. I did a lot of different things, some conventional, some less conventional, some very out of the box. I tried like everything that I could think of to work on the elbow. And my back was just getting worse and worse and worse. And again, I've tried lots of different things for my back. So this is not an open invitation to give me unsolicited advice on my back. I'm working on it. But the point is that I was just getting further and further into this hole, basically, where especially starting in August of 2025, when I completely stopped everything because basically everything hurt. Anything I did for my lower body hurt my back, and anything I did for my upper body hurt my elbow, and I just was stuck. And so I stopped everything. And all of a sudden, I'm facing this identity crisis of sorts where I said, like, I see myself as a martial artist. Like, that is a huge part of how I identify. That's a huge part of my story and my identity. And yet, I'm not practicing it. I'm not doing martial arts. And I see myself as a super active person. And I can't do that now. Like I couldn't hike during this time. I still haven't really tried that very much. But I couldn't do like my strength training. I couldn't do a lot of the things that I pride myself on being able to do. And I really was faced with this like serious identity crisis. And it wasn't until about April of this year, so we're talking about 6, 8 months. I can't do math, but no, longer, like probably close to 9 months where I wasn't doing anything. And I started working with a new physical therapist who is a black belt in jujitsu. And he really made it his mission to help me back onto the mats and help me get back to the things that I love doing. And I remember in the midst of all of this, talking to a friend of mine, and she just said, maybe just stop the sport. Like maybe that should be the goal. And I said, first of all, I have stopped it over the last bunch of months, and my pain is just getting worse and worse, not better. That is clearly not the source of my pain. The elbow, yes, was caused directly by a jujitsu injury, right? And again, I won't nerd out on jujitsu. I will spare you, but having an elbow injury is like really, really tough in jujitsu because there's a lot of like fast extension of the arm. And that's a very common position to find yourself in. And it's like very, very easy to re-injure the elbow. So yes, on the elbow side, jujitsu, staying away from it was the right move. And in the end, spoiler, I wound up getting a PRP injection in my elbow, and that fixed my elbow. And it's like back to normal now. But I'm still dealing with the back pain. And really, why I want to talk about this is not to have a whole episode about martial arts. Although I could, I don't know. Tell me if you want to hear about that. I'm happy to talk more about it. There are a lot of layers to it and why I love it so much. But this episode is really about the idea of holding two truths at once. I have had to hold two truths at once. One is I am a martial artist and I am continuing to try to get back to the things that I love. And the other thing that's true is that I probably won't be able to do what I used to do. And I can't right now do the things that I used to do. I may never get back to that. And so I have to hold these two truths at once. And it's very, very common in business, in life, in like so many arenas to have to hold two truths at once. And the two truths seem contradictory, and it's extremely uncomfortable. We have this cognitive dissonance that arises, and we are not comfortable with that. Like humans don't like ambiguity. We like when things have a clear answer. And unfortunately, life just doesn't work that way. I have experienced this in many big ways. So this martial arts thing is one example. The other example of this that comes to mind that I, again, have talked about a lot, but it's worth mentioning now is that I am childless, not by choice. I went through a harrowing journey of infertility and stopped that journey. And my husband and I will never be parents. We won't ever have that experience. And we decided to not go down other paths. We decided that wasn't the right thing for us. And so I have to hold that truth that I will never be a mother. And the truth that I have to hold is that it was the right decision. And it's always going to be painful. That is not a pain that's ever going to go away. And I have to hold these two at once. And this particular example is one that people can't handle. And I hear a lot when people hear my story, they say, oh, but have you tried this? Or my cousin miraculously got pregnant this way, or whatever it might be. Or can I put you in touch with someone who adopted, or whatever it is? Or have you considered, right? That's a big one. Have you considered adoption or other modes of becoming parents? I always say, like, we've made the decision. It's painful, and it was the right decision. And people can't handle that ambiguity. They can't handle when things don't have a straight answer. But we face this in business all the time. We take risks in business that we don't know what the outcome is going to be. That's kind of the definition of a risk, right? If we knew what the outcome was going to be, it wouldn't be a risk. But we have to take risks in business. We have to decide, what are we betting on? What are we putting effort into? What are we investing in? And we don't know how that's going to pay off. So we have to hold two truths at the same time of, I am going to invest myself in this and it may not pay off. It may not be worth it. Except, is it not worth it? Right? Does it not paying off make it not worth it? Not necessarily. Both can be true at the same time. When it comes to your marketing, this is something I hear all the time, right? And I talk about it all the time. I put so much work into my social media posts and no one responds the way that I want them to, or I don't get enough views, or my business isn't growing as a result. And that doesn't necessarily make the effort not worthwhile. It tells you something. It gives you information, which is maybe you need to pivot. Maybe you need to shift how you're approaching it. Maybe there's a change that's needed. But it doesn't mean that that effort was worthless. A couple of years ago, I invested a lot of money in a group coaching program. This was a business coaching program that was run by a coach I really admired, and I felt like it was the right time. Things were kind of floundering in my business at the time, and it felt like I just had to do something. So I invested a lot of money, like a lot of money, more than I could afford at the time. Now, I didn't go into debt or anything like that. I'm very lucky to have a second income in my house. So it wasn't like I couldn't afford it on any level. My business couldn't really afford it at the time. And I made this investment, and it was a year-long program. And by the end of the year, when the coach came to me and said, "So are you going to sign on for year 2?" I said, "No, I can't, because my business is not actually doing any better than it was 12 months ago." And I walked away from it, and I decided to take a different approach. And yet, if you ask me today, do I regret signing up for that program? Do I regret sinking all that money into it? Absolutely not. I learned a ton in the program. A lot of it I still use today. I made so many valuable connections in that program, some of whom have become clients, some of whom have sent me work, some of whom I've collaborated with. There's so much I got out of that program that really had like compounding effects. And so both can be true. I spent a lot of money on something that I didn't get the return on investment that I was hoping for at the time. And I don't regret signing up for it. I still learned a ton, and both are true. So these are the kinds of things that we face all the time in running our businesses. We have to make decisions all the time. Like every day is many, many, many little decisions that we make. And then sometimes we're faced with big decisions. And a lot of times you have to hold these two truths. And this is something that is very uncomfortable, but it is such a powerful skill to develop, because when you can get comfortable or comfortable enough with the idea of like, I'm kind of being pulled in two directions, and I'm able to sit in the middle and kind of ride that wave and ride that line and just like keep moving forward, it's going to make massive, massive differences in your business. It's going to make massive differences in how you feel in your life. And again, this doesn't just apply to business. It applies to like everything. Where people get stuck is that they're so uncomfortable with that ambiguity and the unknown and the two things being true at once that they feel like they have to go all in on something and never back off if they need to. So for example, you might have a launch that doesn't go the way that you want it to, and you feel like you have to put on a show and you have to pretend that everything went well, because the very idea of owning up to the fact that like you put a lot of effort into this. Launches are hard, like really hard, objectively. Launches are hard and they take a lot of work. They don't necessarily have to take as much work as people often put into them, but they do take a lot of work. They take effort. And so to feel like I put all this effort in and it didn't get me to the goal that I wanted, it winds up leaving you feeling like a failure. And so to avoid that very uncomfortable feeling, you dig your heels in and you say like, okay, I'm going to just like keep pushing this launch. I'm going to keep lowering the price. I'm going to do a sale. I'm going to do whatever it is that I need to do. And that's not necessarily the wrong answer. Sometimes that makes sense. Sometimes it makes sense to really, really put all the effort in to make this work. But sometimes it takes a lot of courage to look something in the eye and say like, this just didn't work. And the real courage is owning that and saying like, it didn't go the way that I wanted it to. I shared a post when I was launching the last cohort of my Bold Content Collective program where I said, my goal, my like real goal that I had in my head the whole time when I kicked off this launch was I wanted to get 6 people in the program. I wanted 6 women. I just felt like that was the right number. That was the number that I really, really wanted. And I wound up having 5. And I was thrilled to have 5. I'm still thrilled. I had the most incredible group of 5 women, and they learned from each other and they grew so much, and it was like incredible. But I never got that 6th. And I could say like, you know what? I failed. I didn't reach my goal. Or I could say both are true. I didn't reach my goal and I'm over the moon. Like I'm over the freaking moon that I got these 5 incredible women in this program. And both are true. And it tells me so much information because I was able to hold those 2 truths at once. It tells me so much information that I'm going to carry into the next launch of the next cohort, which, by the way, is launching in October, early October. So if you're interested, get your name on the wait list. We'll put the link in the show notes. But I learned so much, and there are so many things that I'm going to bring with me into that next cohort. And if I had just shut down and said like I was a failure, or pretended like I never had the goal of 6, right? 5 was my goal all along, right? Like if I tried to smooth away that uncomfortable feeling of holding 2 truths at once, I wouldn't be able to learn what I have learned to take into the next cohort. And so this is a really powerful thing. And it's a really, really hard thing. Because you're a human, I know with almost 100% certainty that this is a really hard thing for you. I don't even think this is like a personality type thing. Like I think 100% of humans really struggle with this idea of ambiguity and 2 things being true at once, and cognitive dissonance, and like that feeling of being pulled in different directions. I think it's just hard. Universally, it's really, really hard. So it's not something that like, oh, you should feel badly about if you struggle with this. Like everyone struggles with this. But it is something that if you can work on it and recognize when there are 2 seemingly opposing ideas that are true at the same time, when you can recognize that and you can say like, all right, I'm going to sit in this discomfort. I'm going to sit in the really uncomfortable place of the middle. I'm going to sit here and hold both truths at once. It is going to dramatically shift how you feel about those situations, because they're going to come up all the time. They're going to happen. You can't avoid them. It is an inevitable truth that you are going to face this. And you've probably faced it 100 million times, and you'll probably face it 1 million more. Like it's really, really, really ubiquitous. So learning to sit with that discomfort, learning to navigate it is really, really powerful and like such a good skill, again, in life as much as it is in business. We talk about business a lot on this podcast. So, it's called Bold Women in Business. So I'm focused on the business side, but like literally this is true of everything. So to bring this back to jujitsu, again, my favorite topic, I'm in this in-between place where I am trying to ease my way back in. And I'm doing what I can to stay plugged in. But many weeks, that means that I don't show up on the mats at all. And some weeks, it might mean that I show up 2 or 3 times. It's probably never going to mean 8 to 10 hours a week again. Maybe. I mean, maybe never say never. But it probably won't, because I don't think that my body can really handle that. But these days, I'm really happy with once a week or twice a week or 3 times a week. Like, I'm thrilled when I can get on the mats even once. And the other kind of holding 2 truths at once is I recognize that I may have back pain for the rest of my life. I have some chronic health conditions that have contributed to this back pain. It's not from nowhere, and I may have pain for the rest of my life. And I will never give up on trying to figure out ways to manage it. So there's this push and pull of having to accept both things at once. I have to accept that I might live in pain for the rest of my life. And I hope that I have a long life ahead of me, right? I'm 38 years old. I hope I have many, many decades ahead of me. And those decades may be lived in pain. And I am not going to just give up. Acceptance doesn't equal giving up. Acceptance is a necessary part to keep moving forward. It's a necessary step to keep moving forward. This is something I learned the hard way. Early on in my chronic pain journey, if you want to call it that, which is a long time. We're talking 11, 12 years. I've been dealing with chronic pain in some form or fashion. And early on, maybe a year or so into that, I saw a therapist who tried to tell me to accept my pain, right? She tried to explain this to me. And I, again, stubborn Rachel, I was so stubborn. And I just said I will not accept this. I will not accept this. And where that led me was just staying really, really stuck in it. And what I've learned over the years is that I can accept it. I can accept that I will probably be in pain in some form or fashion for the rest of my life, and I don't have to give up. So I want to leave you with just a message of hope. I love doing that. I like leaving you on a hopeful note, which is that wherever you are in your business, whatever painful thing you're going through, and you're probably going through some pain because even in good times in business, it's hard. And there are hard things, and you might be going through something really tough right now. That doesn't mean that you're a failure. It doesn't mean that you have to just throw everything away. You can do both at once. You can accept that things are hard and things are not going the way that you want them to in certain arenas, and you can keep pushing forward. And you can learn from those experiences, and you can learn from the things that are not going well. And you can say both are true. I'm not where I want to be, and I am doing so well. And both are true. All right. That's all I got for you this week. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you next week. All right, beautiful human. That's a wrap on today's episode. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. This episode was brought to you by my company, Honeybee Bold, with music by Shmukulele, production by Podium Studios, and sponsored by NitoCow. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with a friend, hit subscribe, and don't forget to rate and review us. It really helps us grow and means the world. See you next time.